When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Last year, I was sitting in the Delta Sky Club in Memphis preparing for one of the greatest adventures of my life. Amanda and I were about to leave for Tanzania to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. As I waited for my flight, I ran into an old friend and former colleague, Richard Burt. We talked for a few minutes, wished each other well, and headed our separate ways. At the time, neither of us knew what the next year would hold. Fast forward, a year later, after spending weeks traveling across Europe with my family, I boarded the flight home through Atlanta last night. As I settled into my seat, I heard a familiar voice directly behind me. It was Richard. The last time I saw him, I was leaving for Africa. This time, I was returning home from Europe. And sitting there, I realized something. This is Summit After the Storm podcast, and I'm Bart Wilbanks. You know, life has a funny way of reminding us how quickly time passes. Sometimes we're so focused on where we're going next that we fail to appreciate how much we've changed since the last time we stood in the same place. Seeing Richard on my flight last night felt like God had inserted a bookmark into my story. One encounter right before Kilimanjaro, another after Europe. And between those two conversations was a year filled with mountains, lessons, challenges, growth, and perspective. Over the past few weeks, my family and I traveled through Rome, Athens, Amsterdam, Paris, London. We walked streets older than my country. We stood inside cathedrals that took generations to build. We visited places where history changed the course of the world. We rode crowded subways where personal space didn't exist. We squeezed into buses packed with people. We waited for buses, trains, ferries. We waited in lines. And something interesting happened. The things that often frustrate me at home started feeling insignificant. Nobody around us seemed offended by inconvenience. Nobody acted shocked when the train was crowded. Nobody expected life to revolve around their own personal comfort. People adapted. People adjusted. People kept moving. And somewhere between Rome and London, I realized I wasn't seeing different places. I was seeing different perspectives. Standing inside buildings that have survived hundreds and sometimes thousands of years has a way of changing your perspective. The problems that feel overwhelming today probably won't matter much a year from now. Most won't matter 10 years from now, and none of them will matter 100 years from now. History has a way of shrinking our worries. The world is bigger than my routine, bigger than my calendar. It's bigger than my inbox, and it's bigger than my career. It's certainly bigger than my problems. When we spend too much time living inside our own routines, our perspective gets smaller. We start believing every inconvenience is a crisis. Every delay is unacceptable. Every problem is overwhelming. But when you step outside your normal environment, you discover something powerful. The world keeps turning. People are living different lives, facing bigger challenges, building different futures, and sometimes finding joy in the middle of it all. Perspective changes everything. I learned the same lesson on Kilimanjaro. When you're standing on the side of a mountain at 15,000 feet, breathing thin air and focusing on one step at a time, the problems you left behind suddenly seem much smaller. The mountain forced me to lift my eyes. Europe reminded me to keep them lifted. The lesson wasn't really about geography, it was about perspective. The higher you climb, the farther you can see. And the farther you can see, the smaller your immediate problems become. Psalm 121 begins this way: I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. I've always loved that verse, but after Kilimanjaro and after Europe, it carries even more meaning. Sometimes the greatest gift that God gives us is perspective. The ability to see beyond today's frustrations and remember that He is working in a much bigger story than the one we can currently see. Great leaders understand perspective. They zoom out. They look at the larger mission. They focus on what matters the most. The same principle applies to life. When you're frustrated this week, ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? 5 years from now? 10 years from now? Many of the things that steal our peace today won't even be remembered later. Perspective doesn't eliminate problems, but it does put them in their proper place. As our plane descended into Memphis, I thought about Richard sitting behind me. The last time we crossed paths, I was headed toward one journey, and this time I was returning from another. Between those two conversations, a lot had changed. And maybe that's the lesson. Life moves quickly. People cross paths for a reason. The world is bigger than our routines, and sometimes God uses a familiar face to remind you just how far you've come. If this resonated with you, follow the podcast on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, or whatever platform you're listening on. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. And you can learn more about my book, this podcast, and this movement at summitafterstorm.com. And until next time, keep climbing. Poly poly.